Hello! It's been a long time, but the Tarot Siren is back with a deck flip through of a deck that I'd been waiting on for months and months, not to come in the mail, but just to get. I wasn't sure at first when I originally saw the deck that this was something I was going to get, because I don't typically work with like photorealistic decks, but then every time I would go to their website and look at the images, I just knew that this deck was really speaking to my soul. And it's the Superlunaris, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, deck, and it is described as Superlunaris, belonging to a higher world, designed for personal development, transformation, and empowerment for all. And I got this as a pre-order. I think this is their second edition of the deck, and they made the colors just a bit brighter than I think the first edition. And I am storing it in this beautiful bag I have by Fabio Listrani, who did the Santa Marta Tarot, which is another deck that I just love. And the color scheme just really matches for these cards. This is the back of the box. Here is the front. It's kind of shimmery, and it's these beautiful colors of like magentas and blues and purples. And I love the backs of these cards because they look like mandalas. So even as I'm giving a reading, if there's ever a moment where I feel a little bit of stress or concern, I just look at the back of the cards and I feel this like sense of inner peace. They're just beautiful. So you'll have to forgive me, the deck is not in order because I used it for a reading today that I gave in a coffee shop, and it was one of my first readings for somebody else using the deck because I just got it yesterday, and the reading went so well. I feel intuitively connected with this deck, even though it was the first time I worked with it with a client. But I also did a couple of readings for myself, one last night and then one this morning, and it just is so spot on, and it has a beautiful nature. I feel like this deck is a part of a crystal that somebody just like chipped off part of the crystal and it manifested into a magical deck. So I'm going to just take you through some thoughts about the way I feel about the cards and what they remind me of. So here we go. So the first one is the Two of Swords, and this is one of my favorite cards of the deck. She is just so beautiful. She's wearing this beautiful red skirt, and her arms are crossed, and the sea is behind her. But there is such a strength in this Two of Swords. It captures the emotion of the card so well. It's beautiful. This is the Page of Pentacles. One thing that really resonated with a lot of people when I was reading reviews for the deck is how diverse the deck is. And there's definitely something for everybody in it. Here is the Emperor. He's kind of depicted as like a presidential being, and that makes a lot of sense. The Emperor needing to create boundaries and a strong, protector of social justice and fighting for what's right. Here's the High Priestess, and she is depicted as an older woman in this card, and first I wasn't 100% sure how I felt because the High Priestess is one of my all-time favorite cards in the tarot, and I'm used to seeing her as kind of more of like a sexy, younger High Priestess, but the more I looked at this card, the more it really resonates that you would come to this woman and she would be able to see through all your bullshit and speak the truth and see deep beyond the veil. So I clicked with this card the more and more that I looked at it. Here we have the Seven of Cups. I love that there's a reflection of like from the water in the sky. You don't really know what's real and what's a reflection sometimes, just like with this card. Here is the Queen of Wands, and I love that she is sexy and sensual and strong and fierce, just like the Queen of Wands should be. And when I see this card, it makes me want to go ahead and be sexy and strong and fierce. They did a great job of capturing that energy. Here is the Six of Wands, celebration, homecoming. Here's the Three of Hearts. It's also another one of my top favorite cards in the tarot, and I like that instead of just having a heart, you get to see the woman being pierced by the swords, and you can see her sense of anguish and despair and how much heartache really hurts. So it's a different take on the card because you don't see like the heart as being the center of the card like you normally would. Here is the Page of Swords, and I love this because he's holding the sword and looking at it like, what can I do with this? What will I be when I learn how to master this sword? And really, whenever I see the Page of Swords, it reminds me of like a young samurai in training. And then by the time you get to the King of Swords, like that's the master samurai. That's like your sensei. And our journey through the swords is learning how to master our thoughts so we can become capable of vanquishing any demons or villains in our mind so that we can move on towards a healthy, powerful place in our own lives. So this is perfect. Here we have our Four of Swords. It looks like she is, you know, doing the typical resting thing we see with this card, but she doesn't look so comfortable that she wouldn't wake up easily and grab that sword and fight, which I like that they brought that out too. Here we have our King of Cups, and he kind of reminds me of the Reading Rainbow guy. I think his name is Levon, but I could be wrong. But just somebody who has like this compassionate, easygoing nature who would share that with you. Here is our Hermit, and it looks like she is in a temple, and that's where she is getting her light renewed, the light that also becomes her inner light. I love that the tarot usually depicts the Hermit as a man, but the creators of the deck have made her female. That really resonates with me, and there's just so much light in this card, like the candles, the windows. You get such a sense of serenity, and that solitude doesn't have to be this dark and lonely thing, but it can be the beautiful recentering of the soul. Here we have our Two of Coins, the Hierophant, and I like that his buddies are like the same age, so they're learning from him. They've probably also taught him things, which is the case with this card. It's about tutelage and knowledge being passed on. Here we have our King of Wands, and he does look like somebody you wouldn't want to mess with. He's strong and powerful, but also kind of a bit of a charmer. Here we have it is the Nine of Swords, and what I like is that there's a bit of light hitting the protagonist's face, and that is so powerful because as dark and as bleak of the Nine of Swords is, there's always light there if we're willing to shine it on our darkest thoughts. The Five of Pentacles, the Chariot, and I love that she is like totally out of control here. No like reining those dogs in, no calm waters, but she's in control because she's choosing to feel joy and basking in the present moment. Here is the Knight of Wands, Temperance. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous swords card. This is the 5, which has never been my favorite card in any deck. I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's usually quite boring. But she looks fierce. She reminds me of Robin Wright Penn if like the Princess Bride was given a sword and like just like what? I love that she has a lot of moxie. Here is the 3 of Wands, and it was the first card that I drew out of this deck, letting me know good news was on its way, my ships are coming in, so this is really hopeful. It almost looks Victorian, which is my favorite time period, so. Here is the King of Swords, and this reminds me of Vikings, like that sexy Viking show. Like, what a badass. Like, you would not want to mess with this King of Swords. He looks strong and handsome and powerful. Here is the 6 of Cups, that sense of whimsy and playfulness to be found. This card right here is the whole reason I bought this deck. It was like the nail in the coffin for why I had to have it. Because I love belly dancing. All sirens do that sexy, sultry isn't a word, sultry movement. And my favorite part of all belly dancing is when the belly dancer like takes this curved sword and puts it on her head, and she's doing her sexy belly dancing with a sword on her head. And so when I saw this Queen of Swords, which is my card, it's one of my favorite cards, with the butterflies and the belly dancer, who isn't a young belly dancer. If you get closer and look at her, she has some age on her, some wisdom, some truth. This is just the most beautiful Queen of Swords I've ever seen in a deck, ever. Had to have it. Here is our 9 of Cups. Five of Cups, and you can really sense the despair and the despondent nature of this card. The bleakness. Here is the Knight of Swords, and kind of like the Queen of Swords, it's a powerful woman. She reminds me of the Kill Bill, like Uma Thurman, strong, tempestuous, ready to just run into the fray and kick ass. So I love that this deck has given like such a strong voice to women and people of color. It's just, like I said, it has something for everybody. And Death, oops, that was upside down. Death is really neat because it's a forest fire, but then you have this like sapling. And that's what death is. It's destruction so that rebirth can occur, growth can occur, new life can occur. And I've never seen a tarot deck capture that like with the image of a forest fire. And trees are very dear to me. I believe they're there to teach us lessons about ourselves and teach us how to be grounded and rooted. So beautiful. Ace of Wands. This is the Queen of Pentacles, and she is absolutely divine. She reminds me of a big, beautiful wedding cake, like just these petals unfurling around her. She totally owns her own energy, her own space, her own wealth. Excellent job. Here is the Five of Wands. Are they helping each other? Are they hindering each other? Who knows? Here is the Seven of, nope, I'm sorry. That is the 8 of Swords. Feeling kind of stuck there on that. Looks like a train track. Maybe you feel like you can't get out of the way of that train, but you can. You could flee. But if you're in that space inside of yourself that doesn't let you move, how can you get out? So I feel like this card does capture that quite well. And this is the Page of Cups. She came up in the reading I gave my client today, and she has that beautiful sense of whimsy. Like, look at the light. I love that the artists made the light in these cards look so real, like you're there. I think that's one thing I'm going to do with this deck is meditate with it and pick a card and imagine stepping into that card and what would that feel like? What would that be like? What character would I meet? This deck, I think, is a wonderful deck for solo practitioners. So even if you don't see clients, even if you're just kind of using the tarot as a map for your own well-being, it's a wonderful meditative deck. But it also works really well for clients because I think all sorts of different people can see like people who resonate with them. Like I said, it's so inclusive that anybody who comes to a reading can say like, oh, that card kind of looks like I do, or I know somebody just like that. That really speaks to me. Here is the Two of Wands. And this looks like my home in New Mexico, the desert pathways. So it's beautiful. I know I keep saying the word beautiful over and over, but I don't know that there's really a better word for this deck other than beautiful. And I'm a Libra, so that resonates with me. If something is beautiful, I'm going to want to use it. I'm going to want to reach for it. I think we all have those decks where we buy them because we like the concept, but then if they're not aesthetically appealing to us, we don't reach for them as much. Or at least that's how I am. This card is the Star, and you can see this naked woman basking in the water and in the glow of the starlight. She makes you want to be there. It reminds me of Pagosa. In Colorado, there's a beautiful hot springs there where you can just look up at the night sky and be in the warm water and let it heal you. Here is the Tower. I like that this tower kind of reminds me of just this icy corporate fortress, and it's being destroyed for a reason. Nobody wants to really live like that or be stuck in that for long. It needs to come down. The Lovers. We have a snake and the two hands, the duality. This is the 10 of Pentacles, and I most definitely want to be in that place. It's gorgeous. Here is the 8 of Cups. Here is Judgment, and this is always a tricky card for me. I usually don't like the way the most tarot decks depict it. It always never conveys the right message for me. But this one is gorgeous, and it might be a little hard to see, but it almost looks like the person is stepping into this keyhole-shaped space. And to me, that's what this card reminds me of, like transcending and going onward and shedding your old karma, your cosmic karma, and walking into the light of something new. It kind of makes me think of the Akashic Records, which I'm learning a little bit more about and how to heal yourself in that space. So this hit the nail on the head. Here is the Ace of Swords, 9 of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles, Queen of Cups. And this also reminds me of my home in New Mexico. Not so much the water, because we don't have a lot of water, but just this beautiful medicine woman performing. It looks to be a ritual, and she's somebody who I could see myself wanting to go to for guidance or wisdom or nurturing. We have our romantic, the Knight of Cups, and his white horse. How appropriate. And the Devil, winding us, keeping us stuck in our old patterns and habits. the Four of Pentacles. This, oops, upside down. This is, they changed the name to the Suspended One. It's normally the Hanged Man, and this is another reason I knew I had to have this deck. Look at her. She's in her kitchen, and you can see, I think it's like herbs, like garlic and stuff in the background, and there's a table, and this beautiful radiant light emanating from her. And I love that you can have epiphanies anywhere, even in your home, even when you're making breakfast, that any moment and every moment is a good time to surrender what your ego is wanting you to do and find some sort of enlightenment in the moment that is the now. Here is the Three of Pentacles. Here is the Three of Cups, and these women look so jubilant, so happy. Don't you want to be their friend? Like, don't you want to frolic in the ocean with them or have a cocktail or a coffee? I do. Here is the Seven of Coins or Pentacles. This Magician gives me goosebumps. She looks so connected to as above, so below. She's channeling her energy and her power, manifesting her reality. Like, when you look at these cards, it's like you're there. I think that's very powerful when it comes to tarot. Because sometimes you look at a deck, and even if it's really beautiful, they just look like pictures. And you can, you know, not be drawn into them, but when I look at these cards, I feel like I'm falling into them, like I'm there as part of the scene. Here is our Seven of Swords. Here is the Wheel. This is the only card that I'm just like, meh, it's so-so. And that's not because the artist did anything wrong. I think it's just because this card doesn't really ever resonate with me a lot. It has too much going on usually. It has the four elements, it has the four cardinal signs of the zodiac, the wheel that says tarot, like sometimes there's a sphinx. So there's so much going on in this card. So in a way, it's kind of nice that they simplified it a bit. Yeah. Here is the King of Pentacles, and I can definitely see how he's the master of his realm, but he still looks inviting, like he'd invite you into that very sacred space he's created that is his home. The Seven of Wands, he looks like he can kick ass too. So another good thing I love about this deck is that it also honors the masculine energy too. Some decks kind of go all the way and leaving men out altogether, and I don't think that's necessary. I mean, sometimes if that's what you're looking for, I could understand, but I feel like the tarot needs to have a good representation of both masculine and feminine energies. So no matter how you identify on the gender spectrum, we all have those energies within us. So it's nice to see that reflected. This one is the Six of Coins. We have the Empress. They also sent me a postcard of this card when I got my deck yesterday. So it's going to remind me all the time to be nurturing and to live with a sense of abundance and understanding I'm always well cared for. Here is the Ten of Cups. We've got that rainbow life. Here is the Four of Cups, and I love the expression on her face. It's the perfect Four of Cups face, like, I'm bored, I'm apathetic, I'm not about this. It's spot on. The Strength card is my favorite card in any deck usually, and I have a tattoo of the Strength card, only it's called True Grit. And I think that they did a great job with the lion here. He's very realistic, and she's got this like balanced pose going on. they're in sync with one another. Here is the moon. Eight of coins. Here is the page of wands. We got our 10 of swords. This one's a little pippish. It is the 8 of wands, but I do love how there's like, is that upside down? It is. Sorry about that. I do love how that there's this beautiful light and the clouds behind the arrows, letting us know that even though the momentum is happening fast, and maybe even faster than we would like, that there's beauty and brightness behind it, and that the change is probably going to be a good one. This card is just like, whoa. Look at the sunset and the reflection in the water. These artists are so proficient at capturing the energy and the emotion of the tarot. This is my all-time favorite Knight of Pentacles I've ever seen. Look at her. She is beautiful and patient and strong and steadfast. It's just stunning. I love this deck. I think this is like a soul deck. It's gorgeous. Here is the 4 of wands, and it looks like a hand fasting ceremony, like an old-fashioned wedding ceremony celebration. Here is our 10 of wands. Here we have justice. She's got that scales, like the Libra that she is. She has her sword of truth and this beautiful crown and a sense of peace, because she's going to tell you the way that it is, whether you want to hear it or not. It's not going to move her. She can't be swayed. The sun. Sun cards are never my favorite because I'm not that into babies, but I like that this included, he looks like a golden retriever, and the sun is just full of that happy-go-lucky energy. Here is the Fool. His expression kind of puzzles me because he looks a little bit serious for a fool, but he does have his little dog companion, and he is about to leap off that cliff. This card, the 2 of Cups, is usually depicting like some lovers or something like that, but instead this is a mirror, and it's this woman looking into the mirror, and that resonated so powerfully for me, because when I do a reading for people and this card comes up, the first thing my mind thinks of is like learning how to love the self and needing how to be grounded from a place of self-love. So the depiction of this card as a woman seeing herself, honoring herself, and learning to love herself in a space of vulnerability, it's just exactly what I would want if I were making the 2 of Cups card myself. We have our 9 of Wands. Last but not least, perfect for the end of a flip through, is the World. And I love how she looks so just in her element, transcending time and space. She's gorgeous. These colors are gorgeous. Gorgeous, beautiful. I just said that so many times. And the reason why is this deck is, it just surpasses the expectations that I had for it. So I would highly recommend it. You can just Google them and find their website, but I'll link it in the video. All I did was pre-order it, and the shipping came quickly. They were so nice about everything. So yeah, if you were on the fence about getting this deck, the Tarot Siren says do it. Don't even think about it. You won't regret it. It's one of the most amazing decks in my collection, and I've amassed a pretty big collection. I've tried to slow down lately because I'm also a minimalist, so I don't want to just purchase too many things just to have them, but this is a deck I'm going to hold on to and use regularly. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and please click subscribe. I know I don't post too many videos, but whenever I do get a new deck in my collection that just speaks to me, I have to share it with the collective. So have a beautiful day. Thank you.